Hello, this is Larry from Blue Collar Nation, and I'm here with my amazing business partner, the tech whisperer, Mr. Eric Sprague. How are you today, Eric?
I'm doing well, Larry. How are you?
I'm great, and we have a wonderful guest coming back with us that we've had on the podcast before, but he has a wealth of knowledge that'll help people. Good morning, Brett Gilliland. How are you today?
Doing well, thanks, Larry. Hi, Eric. Excited
Hey,
to be with you guys today.
Brett, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Brett has
Yeah, my pleasure.
a business, elite entrepreneurs, and he helps many people with that have successful businesses. And we're looking for his expertise today on how he's helping his clients weather this storm with this virus. And we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say, Brett.
Yeah. So, Brett, I have Brett's kind of an expert in organizational management and leadership. And Brett, we had a conversation yesterday with a podcast guest that now is more important than ever to be a good, solid, stable leader in an organization, no matter if it's a small one, medium sized one, big one. So what are your thoughts on what leaders need to do in during this troubling time?
Well, I appreciate the question. I've been talking with people all week, actually the last 10 days or so, about that very question. So, yeah, let's get into it. I start off this conversation with the oxygen mask principle, which is it's really hard for you to be the leader that your people need right now if you're not well. And I don't mean well physically from coronavirus, although I hope everyone is staying safe. I mean the emotional and mental health aspects of being well. And if you're a strong entrepreneur who's weathered all of the storm of startup phase of your business, and you never really had challenges with fear or uncertainty or doubt, you're just solid the whole way, you might still find yourself in a place that's just a little unsettling right now. The world outside of you, things you can't control, are moving around. They're not clear. It's really hard to see right now. And so you might have some of that uncertainty and doubt yourself. But even if you're still solid, your people are feeling that way, or can be feeling that way. And so the very first thing you need to do as a leader right now is to make sure you're grounded, make sure you're centered, make sure you're well. And so I don't know how much you want to get into the details about, tips or practices for staying well right now, but you can't help others until you are on solid ground yourself.
Oh, I think we lost Eric for a second. No, Brett, please dive into what you were talking about, because I think many of our listeners can benefit from what you're saying.
Yeah, so a few things I think I'll share with in the time that we have here. Number one, everybody's version of that is a little different, or version of this thing that I'm about to share is a little different. But you need your daily habits, your daily wellness habits. For some people, that's a morning power hour of some sort. For others, that's getting outside and taking a walk, maybe taking the dog for a walk or walking with your significant other. Some people need to get in nature. Some people want to do their personal spiritual things. So that might be scripture study, prayer, meditation, good music, humor, anything to keep your spirits alive, right? So, or up, I would say. So all of the good personal, mental, emotional health habits that we would typically recommend for all of us during normal times, those would be especially important now. And in normal times, let's face it, you guys better admit this to yourselves, all of you listening. Most of us neglect ourselves in this way. We don't take care of ourselves in this way. Some of us are pretty good about getting exercise, which is still super important right now. But most of us don't take care of the mental, emotional, spiritual aspects enough. And now's the time more than ever to stay really grounded. So those are some quick ideas. Do you want to jump into those any deeper, Larry?
No, no, that sounds great. I mean, that's something that we reinforce all the time. Eric and I are always avid bikers, and we're getting out, and it's as much of a mental workout as a physical workout when you're working on your head. I mean, in exercising, it makes a big difference, and the other aspects are important.
Larry,
That,
you just called me out on that yesterday. That I
yeah,
was, you're like, are you meditating? Are you getting out of the house enough? Because, I've just been burrowed in this little home office, and, that can take a toll on you emotionally
yeah,
after a while.
That's
absolutely.
right. And we're all in that space. And all that does is fuel it's like a vicious cycle. We get hunkered down, we get isolated, and we aren't able to keep ourselves in a good place if we're not super intentional about that right now.
Well,
So, I mean, on the good news side of things, unless you're constantly hitting refresh on the news feed and the social media feed to see what's going on out there, you have way more time on your hands personally than we normally do, right? Because we just can't be out as much. There's no commute. There's no going to the restaurant, right? We're not out as much. So we actually have time to take care of ourselves, and we need to be doing that.
Yeah. Well, and you also have more time to get the big things done. Even if it seems like it's all grinding to a halt, you can actually work on some things that you hadn't been able to do when all the busyness was going on.
I love that you said that. Yeah. So the number one thing, and we've now talked about, is take care of yourself. The number two thing that leaders need to do right now is to get clarity. And part of that getting clarity is getting rid of the clutter. And a lot of us deal with and live in clutter. And I don't necessarily mean physical clutter at our desks, right? I mean, it's
Right.
all the stuff in our minds. Like,
in your
man, I got to
head.
get to that. I got to get to that. I got to get to that. And so while it may feel weird right now to get into planning cycles because we can't see very far into the future, we still need to do the working on the business right now. And part of that is getting clarity for ourselves about as much of the future as we can see. And part of that is getting rid of all these other things that we never get to, like you're talking about, Eric.
Yeah. What do you think these leaders should be telling their teams right now? Because, I think a lot of the rank and file team members are probably nervous, in many ways, nervous for their
Yeah.
jobs, nervous for the future, nervous where the company's going.
Yeah, great transition. So oxygen mask is squarely placed on ourselves. How do we help other people get the oxygen and help that they need?
Right.
So they, surprisingly enough, they need the same things, right? They need the mental, emotional health. And while most of us aren't used to sort of prying into people's personal lives that way as leaders, this is a different time. We need to make sure that our people are doing well. This is an opportunity for all of us to step up as leaders in a new way. And I'm not saying get involved in every single personal aspect of every person's life on your team, but I am saying you may have to get to know them on a deeper level right now, go deeper with them than you normally would to check in and see where are they at. So just a little brain science here, and I'm not an expert, but I know enough to share some helpful tips. Right now, and all of your people are going through some version of this. Right now, when there's fear, uncertainty, and doubt out there in the environment, our brains are so good at scanning the environment for danger and protecting ourselves. Right? We have this amygdala. So it's kind of core survival thinking, right? It's the amygdala, sometimes called the lizard brain, more towards the back and the bottom portion of our brain in the back, or the core part of it. And we can't do any logic. We can't do any critical thinking or rational thinking or problem solving or collaboration when we're stuck in survival mode. So we have to help our people acknowledge, hey, things are a little unsettling out there. For some of us, more so than others. Let's talk through what are some of the real things going on that has your brain on heightened alert, right? Like, let's just talk about it. So I did a little I did our planning meeting with my own team a couple days ago, and we still did the normal exercises we always do every quarter to just be aligned, to be clear where we're going. We did the normal stuff. But before the normal stuff, I started with something from the Stockdale paradox. Have you guys talked about the Stockdale paradox with your audience before?
No.
Okay, so yeah, everybody knows, well, most people know Jim Collins. He wrote several books. One of them is called Good to Great. And he came up with this concept called the Stockdale paradox based on a conversation he had with Admiral James Stockdale before his death. I believe he passed away in 2005. Anyway, Admiral Stockdale was a prisoner of war. He was the senior most, the highest ranking naval officer in the Hanoi Hilton, the Vietnam War. Okay. So he was shot down. He was a pilot. He was shot down, and he was in this prisoner of war camp for 7 years. Okay. Just think about that. However long this coronavirus thing lasts, not going to be, we're probably not going to be in this 7 years.
Right.
And most of us aren't physically going to be in danger, even though that's real for many people. Most of us aren't going to be in real physical danger. But we can take some lessons from people like Admiral Stockdale or any of the, the Nazi prisoner of war camp survivors. All of these people developed extreme mental toughness from coming through these horrific experiences. The ones who made it had extreme mental toughness. So Jim Collins interviews James Stockdale and says, how did you do that? How did you survive 7 years? And here's what we learned. James Stockdale and others like him who developed this mental toughness and who not only survived extremely hard things, but came out stronger on the other end of it. He said, you must confront the brutal facts of your current reality while maintaining, always at the same time, maintaining an undying belief that in the end you will prevail. So I know I took a long detour there, but applying the Stockdale paradox with my team, the first exercise we did together as a team the other day was, what are the brutal facts we're confronting right now? And I need to be clear, and all of you need to lead very powerfully through this. This cannot be a worry session. It cannot be a fear session. It needs to be just the facts, right? You need to go into investigative reporter mode. What are the brutal facts? And we're just listing them. No judgment on them. We're just taking inventory of what is. Then we switched. We flipped the switch and we went to, all right, what are reasons to believe? How can we maintain an undying belief that in the end we will prevail? And so we went into a little exercise around reasons to believe. And when you lead powerfully as leaders and help people get out of their survival mode brain and into their more creative, critical thinking, rational, problem-solving brain, then we can do lots of things together as people. The human spirit is resilient, and people are incredibly creative to go solve real problems together. And you get to invite your people into that space. Go figure out new ways to generate revenue. Go figure out new ways to serve and keep the current customers you have. Go figure out new ways to, if you need to cut back on expenses, go figure out new ways to do that together. So you need to acknowledge that people are in a place of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And you can't, the tricky part, guys, is you can't fight that stuff with logic. You can't go to them and say, here's the logical thinking and the logical reasons for believing right now. You can't do that. You have to meet them where they're at in that survival place in their brains and acknowledge them and reassure them and help them move forward into more creative thinking and rational thinking. And you can use something like the Stockdale paradox in that story to help them see what's required to move forward and then invite them to move forward with you. Sorry, I know I talked a lot there.
No, Brett, that was really enlightening, and that was amazing. So, okay, so we want to try to keep this quick. I don't want to take too much of your time. So, let's just finish on what do you think, if the phone's not ringing, what do you think an entrepreneur should do to try to keep keep going? Because you had mentioned some of the things that, so
Yeah.
what would, even if you're kind of shut down, what would the moves that you would say to do?
Okay, so I guess just very practically speaking, I think most business owners know right now that there's some aid coming, right? The federal government is expected to pass something today. In fact, there are disaster relief or disaster assistance loans through the Small Business Association. I think I would educate myself about those and go get access to some financial resources to help take some of that concern away. But I would also, I would really get with my people every single day. You guys already teach this, right? A daily huddle. That's so important right now more than ever, to just get together, be positive, and then get laser focused on the things that we can do right now to serve and keep our current customers, and to go find new ways to add value and generate new revenue. So it's all about your people right now. It's a leadership game. And if you can get the creative problem solving mental cycles from your people right now, if you can harness that, that'll be your best chance of winning. I would get in front of as many people as I could right now to offer assistance, even if it's not generating revenue immediately. You want to be a trusted go-to resource, and you want to be serving as many people as you can right now, so that they do think of you with their potentially limited resources in the short term, and they absolutely think of you when things start to free up again.
That's perfect advice. So, we've been talking about that, Larry and I, in our own business, same exact stuff. So anyway, well, Brett, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. I didn't want to take too much of your morning, because I know you're in hustle mode just like the rest of us.
That's right. Hey, every single one of your listeners figured out hustle mode at one time to get their business off the ground. This is no different. You just got to get scrappy again.
Yeah. And we're hoping as this passes, there'll be a glut of work on the back end of this too. So
yes.
Yeah. And the best leaders build the best businesses. Those businesses will still be around, and those are the ones that are going to win.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, Brett, thanks for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brett. Take care.
Okay. Take care, guys. See ya.
Okay.
Bye.